Hey guys, how you going? Now if you use VS Code and you haven't heard of user snippets, trust me, you're gonna wanna watch today's video. I'm serious, like genuinely, you're gonna wanna watch today's video. I'm serious, mate. Anyway, the point is user snippets have increased my productivity as a programmer so much it's ridiculous. Basically, user snippets allow you to define your own custom blocks of code, which you can then access by typing a few characters on the keyboard, then pressing enter. They also allow you to easily tab through your blocks of code, and you can also provide things like autocomplete suggestions in the dropdown, and it makes it so much easier. So now I'm going to show you an example of what I'm talking about. Okay, so right here we have an extremely familiar site, a JavaScript file. So I want to type out document.querySelector. So I'm going to type QS, then press enter, and there we go, document.querySelector. So that right there is a user snippet. I told VS Code when I type out QS and press enter, I want document.querySelector to appear. I can also press tab and go straight into the double quotes for my query selector string, and I can say something like .table and I am done. So that right there is a user snippet. Now, I'm sure many of you guys have used similar things in the past. For example, many extensions in VS Code come with their own set of snippets, and also VS Code has its own built-in, set of snippets. So the beauty of this right here is the ability to define your own custom user snippets. Like I said, guys, it's fantastic. So now I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, so the first step in defining a user snippet is to go into the file menu, then drop down to preferences, then go inside user snippets. Okay, so once you're inside here, you're going to need to specify which file type or extension you want these snippets to be applied to. In my case, I'm going to show you the exact same query selector example that I showed you earlier. So I'm going to choose JavaScript, and then once you're inside your JSON file, you're going to see an example of how to define a user snippet. As you can see, you begin by specifying the name of that snippet. So if I go down here, I can now type out query selector as my snippet name. I can now specify an object, and inside this object here, we're going to define a couple of things. The first thing is, what is the shortcut in order to make this snippet activate? So I'm going to type out prefix and then say QS. So now when I type out QS in a JavaScript file, I want this snippet to be activated. Okay, so in order to define which code is going to display, we can drop down and then just say body. So this is the body of your snippet, aka the actual code. So now we can type out something like document.querySelector and leave these brackets empty. I can save this and go back inside the main.js file, and now if I type out QS and press enter, we get right there document.querySelector. So this right here is of course pretty good, but want to take it one step further and actually make something, or make your cursor default to the middle of these brackets right here with the bonus double quotes. Okay, so in order to achieve that, if we go back inside the javascript.json, we can head inside the brackets here and type out the double quotes, and of course, just escaping these two because, of course, we don't want these double quotes to interfere with our double quotes in the JSON, so just escaping those two characters right there. Alternatively, you can just use single quotes instead, but it's up to you. I'm going to use double quotes. Now, inside these double quotes, we can now type out $ and then 1. So $1 inside your body simply refers to the first tab position. So now, if I go back inside my JavaScript file, I can type out QS, then press enter, and we get the cursor immediately inside the double quotes here, and I can type out .table as an example. So it's that easy to define a user snippet and have that first text cursor in that position. Now, we can of course take it a step further and we can define two tab positions. So for example, let's just say, typically you call a query selector on the document, but maybe you want to call it on a child element. Okay, so for example, we'll say $1, then $2 for the first and second tab position. If I go back in the JavaScript file and I type out QS, we get firstly the cursor in the first position. I can say document, then press tab, and we go straight into the double quotes again, and we can do table as an example. So that is your two tab positions right there. Now, you can also set up defaults for these positions. So for example, if I type out $, then use a curly brace here, I can now say colon after my 1, and I'll then say document. This means by default in this position, it's going to be document, but I can easily change it because this whole section is going to be highlighted. Let's see how this works. If I go back in main.js, I can type out QS, press enter. As we can see, document is fully highlighted. I can now begin typing. I'll say something like my parent element, and there we go. It's easily done. I press tab and we're back inside here. Perfect, right? Cool. So now let's take it one step further. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've created a second user snippet called addEventListener prefixed by AEL. So this right here is very straightforward. It's a simple snippet with three tab positions. So I can say something like AEL, press enter, and we get something like this. I can say document, then I can say my event type, something like click, and my function body to be something like console.log, then passing through E. So let's make this snippet a lot more interesting. Let's provide drop-down suggestions for the event type. Okay, so to achieve this, let's go back inside the JSON file, and inside the double quotes here, we're going to use once again those curly brackets, but this time we'll say to, then put the pipe character. Now we're going to specify a comma separated list of all the possible options. For example, I can say click, I can say input, I can say change, blur, and so on. So these are all my JavaScript event types separated by a comma. I can now finish this off by pressing a second pipe there at the end, and now we are done. So if I go back inside here, I say AEL, then say document, I press tab again, and we get all of these suggestions. I can now say something like change, and it does it like that. So that is a different way to customize your snippets. Okay, so there we go. And that is all for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video or you learned something, drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.